In the heart of Africa, long before the roads were paved and before kingdoms were divided by borders, two mighty kingdoms flourished. One was the kingdom of Owaru, a land known for its lush forests, grand rivers, and skilled warriors. The other was Abudu, a kingdom famous for its iron craftsmanship and formidable army. Though the two kingdoms had coexisted peacefully for generations, there was one thing they both coveted: the throne of the great kingdom of Zori, the land that stood between them both. It all began with the sudden death of King Zori, the ruler of the land that both kingdoms had long respected. King Zori was a wise and powerful monarch, known for his ability to unite the kingdoms and bring peace to the region. But now, with his passing, the once stable lands were thrown into chaos. Every chief, every noble, and every warrior knew what this meant: the throne was empty, and it was time for a new ruler to rise. The Owaru kingdom and the Abudu kingdom had long held their eyes on the throne. Both had their reasons. Owaru, with its rich forests and mystical elders, believed in the power of the land itself and its connection to their ancestors. Abudu, on the other hand, had always prided itself on its warriors and their strength in battle, believing that true power lay in the sword. The elders of both kingdoms met in the middle of the Great Zori Plains, where they agreed that the throne would go to the kingdom that could prove its strength, either by might or by wisdom. The battle for the throne was set, and the hearts of the people began to race. Both kingdoms prepared for the battle, but each did so in their own way. The Abudu kingdom, with its mighty warriors, began sharpening their swords and organizing their army. Their leader, Prince Adibeo, a tall and fearless man, led his people with an iron fist. His soldiers were fierce, and they believed that no army could stand against the might of their weapons. Meanwhile, the Owaru kingdom took a different approach. Instead of focusing on brute force, they called upon their elders and priests, who were known for their deep connection to the land. Queen Ireti, the ruler of Owaru, was a wise woman, known for her calm demeanor and sharp intellect. She sought counsel from the spirit of the earth, hoping to tap into the ancient magic that ran through their forests and rivers. Ireti, unlike Adibeo, did not believe that this battle could be won by strength alone. She knew that there was something more at stake, something beyond the power of a sword. She gathered the people of Owaru and instructed them to prepare, not just for battle, but for something much deeper. They would need to awaken the power of their ancestors and call upon the spirits that had long protected their lands. The day of the battle arrived with the first light of dawn. The sky was painted with hues of red and orange as the armies lined up, facing each other across the Zori Plains. The tension was thick. The people of Owaru and Abudu stood ready, knowing that this day would determine their future. Prince Adibeo, with his silver armor shining brightly, led his warriors into the front lines. His army stood like a wall of steel, ready to charge. They had no doubts that they would crush Owaru and claim the throne for themselves. Queen Ireti stood silently on her side of the field, watching the wind blow through the trees. She was not dressed in armor. Instead, she wore a simple gown of green and gold, symbolizing the unity between her people and the earth. Her hands were raised toward the sky, her eyes closed in quiet prayer. She had faith in something more than weapons. She had faith in the power of her ancestors and the spirits that watched over Owaru. As the two armies stood, preparing for battle, something extraordinary happened. A storm began to gather on the horizon. It was as though the heavens themselves were responding to the energy of the battle below. Just as Prince Adibeo ordered his soldiers to charge, a great clap of thunder echoed across the plains. The wind howled, and dark clouds began to swirl above. The ground trembled beneath the feet of both armies. But it wasn't the storm that startled them, it was what followed. From the depths of the Owaru forest, a mighty roar echoed, a sound unlike anything they had ever heard. The ground began to shake as if the earth itself was coming alive. Suddenly, a great herd of elephants, the guardians of Owaru, charged onto the battlefield. The elephants were led by the massive matriarch, a creature as old as the kingdom itself, known to the Owaru people as Eneni. The great beasts thundered across the field, their massive feet shaking the ground and their trunks trumpeting in a sound that was both powerful and terrifying. The warriors of Abudu, though mighty in battle, were stunned by the sight. No army could prepare for such an overwhelming force. The elephants were not only physically imposing, but they also carried with them the spirits of the ancestors, ancient protectors that had watched over Owaru for centuries. Prince Adebayo, though a great warrior, had never encountered such a force. His army faltered in the face of the elephants' charge, unsure of how to proceed. The thunderous sound of their feet and the booming roar of the storm above struck fear into their hearts. As the battle raged on, the people of Owaru began to chant, their voices rising in unison. The storm above intensified, and it felt as though the heavens were blessing their cause. Queen Ireti, standing at the center of the battlefield, raised her hands high once more, invoking the power of the earth. The warriors of Abudu fought valiantly, but they were no match for the sheer power of the elephants and the magic that seemed to pulse from the ground itself. The great matriarch, Eneni, trampled through the Abudu lines, her mighty tusks knocking soldiers aside like mere insects. The warriors of Owaru, inspired by the strength of their ancestors, fought with renewed vigor, pushing the enemy back. It was then that Prince Adebayo realized that this battle was not meant to be won by force alone. He had underestimated the power of the land and the spirits that protected it. He called for a retreat, knowing that the odds were no longer in his favor. As the storm began to subside and the elephants returned to the forest, the battlefield fell silent. The people of Owaru stood victorious, not because of their weapons, but because they had tapped into something greater, something beyond the mortal realm. They had called upon the spirits of the land, and in doing so, they had secured their place as rulers of the throne. Queen Ireti, though humble in victory, knew that this was not just a triumph of Owaru, it was a triumph of the ancient wisdom that had guided their people for generations. She knew that the throne of Zori would be her kingdom's, but it was not the crown that mattered. It was the bond between the people and the earth, the ancestors, and the spirits. Prince Adebayo, though defeated, left the battlefield with respect for the Owaru people. He had learned that power was not just found in the strength of a sword, but in the unity of a people and the wisdom of their ancestors. And so, the kingdom of Owaru claimed the throne, not through force, but through the power of their history, their spirits, and their connection to the earth. The story of their victory would be passed down for generations, a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the forces beyond our control. The battle for the throne of Zori was not just a war, it was a lesson in humility, in the strength of unity, and in the timeless power of the earth. Owaru ruled wisely, knowing that they were not the true rulers of the land, they were simply its stewards, chosen by the spirits to protect it for future generations.